It was a moment that no one at the gas station could have predicted. The air was still, the hum of the pumps drowned out by the sound of the breeze, until a single swipe, and then silence. The billionaire stood there, staring at the screen, in disbelief. Declined. It was a simple transaction, a card that was meant to cover anything. But it was the gas station attendant's next words that made everything freeze. Just behind him, two little boys stood watching intently. Why were they the only ones who seemed unbothered by the unfolding drama? What was it that they knew? And how could they possibly change the fate of a man who had everything except dignity? The man standing at the counter, now fidgeting with his card, was none other than Marcus Whitmore, the self-made billionaire known for his impeccable business, acumen, and a lavish lifestyle. A man who could buy whatever he wanted, from the most expensive cars to private islands. Yet today, in this tiny, modest gas station, something was off. His hands shook as he swiped his platinum credit card again, and again. Declined. The gas station, nestled on the corner of a quiet street, didn't look like much. The faded sign above Joe's Gas and Go hinted that this place was just a stop for regular folks. But today, the ordinary was about to collide with the extraordinary. Marcus stood, his pride bruised, surrounded by a few random people filling up their tanks, none of them paying attention except for two young boys standing near the door. Their faces, full of life and innocence, seemed out of place in such a tense moment. Dressed in matching black t-shirts and worn-out sneakers, they appeared to be no older than 10, yet their gazes felt like they could pierce through the surface of everything. The crowd barely noticed them, but Marcus did. There was something about them. The world moved in slow motion as Marcus fumbled for his phone, about to call his assistant. He needed to fix this, but something in the twins' gaze told him it wasn't going to be that simple. The quiet murmur of the crowd shifted. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Marcus, with a furrowed brow, called his assistant once again, his voice laced with frustration. "How can this be happening? It's a simple transaction, damn it!" he muttered to himself, glaring at the screen of his phone. But no one knew what was truly unfolding. No one could see the deeper layers of injustice that stretched far beyond Marcus's personal discomfort. This wasn't just about a card being declined. It was about the lives of those who every day lived in a system that was meant to keep them in their place, whether they had billions or not. Marcus tried again, his face growing redder. "This is ridiculous. I can't be stuck here like this." But the clerk, a young man named Joe, merely glanced at him, then at the boys by the door. His eyes softened as he took in their expression. The twins, who had been motionless until now, walked forward with quiet resolve. As they approached, the bustle of the small station seemed to fade into the background, as though the universe had intentionally silenced everything. They stood a few feet away from Marcus, who noticed their steady stare. The smaller twin, the one with a half-smile that could only be described as confident, stepped forward. "Excuse me, sir, do you need help?" Marcus looked down at them, unsure of how to respond. Here he was, a billionaire, trying to resolve a situation that should have been nothing but a hiccup in his day, and yet these two boys, seemingly out of nowhere, had drawn his attention. He brushed them off at first, annoyed by the interruption. "I'm fine," he snapped, but the tone of the twins' voices held a calmness that shook him. The twin who spoke continued, his voice low but clear. "You don't need to be embarrassed, sir. You're not the one being watched." Marcus froze, turned to look around, and for the first time since entering the station, he realized that everyone's eyes were on him. Not in the usual way people glance at the rich and famous, but with a quiet intensity, a judgment that Marcus had never experienced. And it wasn't about his money. It wasn't about his billionaire status. It was something deeper, something far older than him. It was about who gets to be seen as a person worthy of dignity and who doesn't. The younger twin, standing silently beside his brother, pointed at the card reader, his gaze unwavering. That card has power, but it's not what's going to fix this. The only thing that can fix it is how you see the world. Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. Who were these kids? And what were they trying to say? The air was now thick with the weight of their words. Marcus felt his chest tighten as if something had shifted within him, something he couldn't control. Suddenly, the reality of the situation hit him like a wave. The twins weren't just innocent bystanders. They were delivering a message, one that pierced straight to the heart of everything Marcus had taken for granted. In a place where he was used to holding all the power, the roles had now reversed. The quiet judgment of the room grew louder. For the first time, Marcus saw the inequality of his world laid bare, not in terms of wealth or success, but in something far deeper. The faces of the other customers were no longer just passive spectators. Their expressions were hard to read, but there was a shared awareness in the room. Everyone was quietly watching, waiting for something to happen. Marcus, normally a man of control, had nothing left to cling to. His card, the symbol of his success and his life, lay useless in his hand. The twins, however, stood as if they held a secret, one that would unravel everything Marcus thought he knew. Without warning, the older twin turned to the clerk, Joe. "You know what to do." Joe paused, then nodded, walking over to the cash register. The tension in the air deepened, and Marcus's heart began to race. Just as Marcus opened his mouth to say something, anything, Joe returned holding something in his hand. A small slip of paper. The twins, still standing there, looked at Marcus with eyes that seemed older than their years. Their expression had shifted from one of quiet curiosity to something more intense, more knowing. This was not just about a declined card. Joe handed the slip to Marcus, his voice calm but firm. "It's paid for. Your card's been declined. But we've covered the difference." Marcus looked at the slip in disbelief. There it was, in bold letters. Paid in full. Beneath the words were two simple names. The twins' names. He looked up at them. "Why? Why would you—" The younger twin's eyes glistened, his voice soft but resolute. "Because we see you, not as the billionaire, but as the man who is, just like the rest of us, trying to figure out how to live in a world that doesn't always play fair." In that moment, Marcus saw something he had never understood before. Humility. The kind of humility that came not from having everything, but from recognizing that no one, no matter their status, is exempt from being human. The gas station suddenly felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in on him. And in those few moments of silence, the weight of the world, his world, felt different. For the first time, Marcus felt the crushing pressure of a system that favored only those who fit a certain mold. But as the twins turned to leave, the message had been delivered. The power was no longer in his hands. It was in theirs. As the twins walked out the door, the faint sound of the gas station bell chimed behind them, and Marcus stood there, motionless. His hand still clutched the slip of paper, his mind racing with thoughts he hadn't considered in years. He wasn't just thinking about the money, or his card being declined, or even the twins paying for him without a second thought. He was thinking about what he had just witnessed, how, in that small act of kindness, he had been shown a truth he couldn't ignore. The world he inhabited had always seemed like a place of absolute control, where wealth and influence could bend reality. But standing there in that modest gas station, Marcus had been reminded that true power wasn't about money. It was about the human connection, the recognition of others as equals, the ability to see beyond the surface, beyond skin color, beyond status. As Marcus looked around, he saw the people in the station differently now. They were no longer just background characters to his life. They were people with stories, struggles, and humanity. And the twins, those little black boys, had shown him that. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The call from his assistant had gone through, but Marcus let it ring out. He had no words left for business today. He didn't need to check his bank, balance, or his next big deal. All he could think about was the simplicity of the moment, those little boys who saw something in him that he had never seen in himself. And just before he left, Marcus heard Joe's voice from behind the counter. "You'll never see the world the same way after today, but maybe that's the point." The words hit him like a quiet thunder, echoing in his chest. The lesson was clear. Power without empathy was hollow. Real power came from understanding and seeing the humanity in others. As Marcus walked out of the station, the sun was beginning to set. The soft golden light bathed the street in a warm glow, as if the world itself had given him a second chance to reflect. And in that reflection, he found something far more valuable than all the wealth he had ever accumulated. He found his humanity. When we stop seeing people for what they have and start seeing them for who they are, the world can change.